Hola a todos y bienvenidos a Encuentro. En esta ocasión, tenemos la fortuna de contar con Ryan Marshall, quien es co-head de Multi-Activos, Estrategias y Soluciones para BlackRock. Viene de la oficina de Nueva York y hoy está con nosotros para platicar un poco de él, de su vida personal y profesional, así como de cómo ha evolucionado la industria del asset management en el mundo. Por otro lado, también nos platica y nos da tips sobre cómo invertir, en qué momento es idóneo entrar al mercado y cómo debemos de interpretar los momentos que estamos viviendo para efectos de tomar buenas decisiones de inversión. Estaremos platicando en inglés en este episodio especial de Encuentro. Hi everyone and welcome to Encuentro. This time we are honored to receive Ryan Marshall, who is the co-head of Multi-Asset Strategies and Solutions here at BlackRock. He has a degree cum laude from University of Pennsylvania with concentrations in finance and multinational management. Welcome, Ryan. How are you?
Thank you. I am wonderful and thrilled to be here.
It's great having you here. And maybe we can start with something that sounds easy, but sometimes it's more difficult than everybody thinks. But can you let us know a little bit more about your professional and your personal kind of background?
Sure, absolutely. So I live and work in New York City today, but that hasn't always been the case. I actually grew up in the Midwest in the United States, in Ohio. And I certainly don't come from a financial services background. A little known, most people don't know, but my father actually never graduated from high school.
Okay.
But one of the very powerful things that he and my mother taught me early on were the advantages of hard work, determination, and really a belief that. If you apply yourself, you can accomplish almost anything.
That's incredible. No, congratulations for that. Like your parents, I'm sure they were very proud of you.
Yeah, I think so. Although I think many people's mothers always want like a doctor or an engineer or something like that. And I went into financial services and eventually asset management.
Right.
But I think so, and I was always very proud of them as well.
And professionally, you have been in BlackRock for a while, right? Like you date back to 2009 or so?
Exactly. In fact, tomorrow will be 13 years ago that I joined BlackRock. So
wow.
It's a bit of an anniversary for me as well, and it's great to celebrate it here in Mexico City.
And how that has going. I am supposed that you're really happy at BlackRock. You're still here with us, which is always great. But can you share a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I joined. Well, first of all, I started my career in 1990, which, if you go back and look at history, was a rough time in the markets. In fact, one of the firms that I was interviewing with and hoping to get a job with filed for bankruptcy while I was interviewing with them. So it was a rough time, in the markets. And when I joined BlackRock in 2009, we were in the middle of what's come to be known as a global financial crisis, when really parts of the banking industry and the global financial markets, were questioning, if this could lead to another Great Depression. Fortunately, we only had a Great Recession, but it was a very challenging, but at the same time, interesting time in the markets.
Wow, that should be an interesting time to work, no, and to evolve, etc. And look, us, I think we are facing certain challenges, probably not what you faced like back in 2008-9, but still. Really interesting times, the ones that we're living, right?
Absolutely. And I think it represents an opportunity if you're thinking about those people working in financial services, particularly getting a start. These are great opportunities for learning. Sometimes I think people think that, a nice, calm environment is a better environment, but it's these types of environments that I think shake things up and create opportunities for younger generations of investors.
And now that we're talking about that, younger generations and investors at the same kind of phrase, maybe we can start, by talking around asset management, right? Like, if someone is listening to us and they would like to understand a little bit better what asset managers represent, what they do, can you give us a hint or something really quickly to understand, what we're talking about?
Sure. And one of the reasons I'm really passionate about what we do is because it is so important, but also because it is something that is really, really challenging. Throughout history, I think the way that I think about asset management is what we are trying to help people do is to take their saved labor today, so money that is left over after your living expenses, and transport it into the future, into the distant future in many cases, that you can then draw upon when you're not laboring. Okay. And this has always been, I think, something that has been a unique challenge. Today we call it investing and asset management. If we were in an agrarian society, we would say, gosh, I've had a bumper harvest this year.
Right.
Maybe it won't be so good next year in the future. How could I take that excess harvest, save it, ideally make it grow so that I could benefit from it in 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, maybe when I'm retired and I don't want to be farming anymore.
Absolutely. And you're bringing a really good topic, particularly in LATAM and in Mexico. We don't like to think when we will not be productive, right? We would like to see us as, this superhero that will be, in their kind of top, all the time. So it's a sensitive topic, like to understand that there's going to be a time in life where probably you will not be as productive as now, and you will require certain assets in order to live, right? So that's, I think, why it's so important, back to what you were explaining.
Correct. And, ultimately retirement, either voluntary because people no longer want to be working, or no longer maybe want to be working primarily for the purpose of maximizing their earnings, but possibly shifting to maximize what I might call the satisfaction of the jobs that they have, which might come at maybe a compromise from a compensation standpoint. But with that savings, over time, that ideally has also grown, it gives them greater flexibility, right, I think, in terms of how they want to spend their time, including their work time.
And right now, with the inflation rates that we're seeing and with the increasing rates, it's really important to understand a little bit more these concepts, because, the money itself, like, it's losing a lot of value really quickly, right? So you don't have it working for you, that represents a problem. Is that right?
This is a huge, I think, challenge. It's a challenge almost everywhere globally, where people are experiencing significant increases in the basic cost of living, foodstuffs, fuel, transportation, living expenses, and so this is a real challenge, and it's a good example of the fact that this is why accumulated savings from prior periods are important as a buffer during periods like this as well. But it's a unique challenge. Inflation is not something that we have had to grapple with as investors for many, many years. And so I think that we're relearning some lessons that we have to look back, in some cases, 30 or 40 years ago for lessons.
Okay. No, I get it. And now that I remember a little bit how we started the conversation on your earlier life at BlackRock, imagining 2008, 2009, right? The financial crisis, etc. I can assume that the asset management industry has been evolving, right? Can you point into what are the main differences that you saw back then that we learned and that we suddenly are improving, or some examples around that?
I think there's two mega trends that we've identified that we're really trying to build our capabilities around. The first is that our clients want help on a whole portfolio basis, that largely the asset management investment industry has been built around building a series of products. So I have equity products, or I have fixed income bond type of products, or maybe other types of alternatives. But what clients want is they want help figuring out how to put all those pieces together into portfolios that are going to have better diversification, and will be more resilient when they go through more challenging periods in the marketplace. So, not showing up just with a range of products for clients, but working with them on a whole portfolio. That's the first mega trend. The second mega trend is what we refer to as mass customization. That things that have historically only been for the largest pools of capital in the world, sovereign wealth funds, very large pension funds, what we're doing at BlackRock is we are finding ways to bring the same quality of investment, the same portfolio building that we've done for those clients historically, all the way down to the individual investor and wealth markets through technology and scaling that just wasn't available even 10 years ago.
Which is a huge change, right? Like using that type of tools in the benefit of the investor, I think makes a lot of difference.
It's really democratizing investing in many cases. As I said, the portfolios that we are now building and delivering in the wealth industry are of the same caliber of the portfolios that we are delivering for our largest institutional clients. And I think BlackRock is relatively uniquely positioned within financial services for a few reasons. One is we represent, as an investment platform, all of the various building blocks that one might want to have in a portfolio, but we have an ability to bring it together through our unique technology in the Aladdin platform in a way that other organizations might have a harder time doing.
And we're not limiting kind of this explanation to just developed countries, right? We're talking about, everyone. Let's say like everyone is invited to the party in a certain sense, right? Like emerging markets, not emerging markets,
correct,
etc., right?
Correct. And this is one of the things that I think is most exciting about the work that we're doing here at the firm is that this is a global phenomenon and is responsible for a global group of people. What we're trying to do is take best practices that we're developing anywhere in the world and bring them directly to the clients, so that those regions, those countries, those investment teams don't have to reinvent the best way of doing it through trial and error, but we can take that learning from other areas and bring it locally to clients, literally in every single region.
Yeah, I remember something that we love to say at BlackRock is that we're a global company with local understanding and local presence, right?
It's absolutely true, and it's one of the most I think fun and rewarding parts of what we do. I'm thrilled to be able to do this in person again. While I think the working remotely had certain benefits, there's no substitute for sitting down with a client to understand what it is that they're really trying to achieve through their savings and their investing, and then figuring out how BlackRock can bring its global capabilities to help them in a local way.
And considering that, anything that you consider we can leverage in the Latin American market or in the Mexican market that you can highlight for us?
Yeah, I think that one of the competitive advantages that exists, particularly here, is how youthful the culture is. Actually, I think that demographics are often underappreciated, but one of the benefits I think that accrues is people who are beginning their journeys now of saving and investing have 30, 40, 50 years to do this, which is incredibly powerful. I'm a little older, and I probably don't have 30, 40, or 50 years to accumulate savings and get exposure to the markets that can help me compound growth. But this, I think, is one of the really exciting areas.
And Ryan, to put it like in other way, let's imagine that someone is listening to us. Hopefully, a lot of people will listen to us, and they haven't experienced their first kind of investment, right? They still haven't experienced that.
The first few pieces of advice, I was recently asked to speak to some new joiners to the organization who were just coming out of undergraduate, and the question that we were asked was, what would you tell your self 32 years ago that you wish you would have known. And I would say a couple of things as it relates to investing. The first thing is don't wait. Start to gain exposure to the markets earlier rather than later, because that will then give your savings a greater opportunity to compound and to grow and to have exposure to the markets, which generally speaking over the long term have rewarded investors. My advice is gain broad diversification when you're investing. There's many very excellent products out there that can get you exposure to the markets, but can provide you with some protection when we have down markets like we've had recently, that you are not vulnerable to having all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, but that you have greater diversification across both stocks and bonds, as well as internationally as well. And I think this is one of the exciting things that we can help people with at BlackRock, which is to gain exposures outside of their domestic markets.
That's really, really useful. Something that I'm taking away from what you said is do not wait, right? I remember a lot of people saying, no, this is not a good moment, right, to enter into the market. The market is depressed and let's wait and let's see. But I think that's kind of a bad piece of advice, right? Like there's never a reason to wait to enter into a market, right? You should know where to enter, to your point, like considering what you're living, etc., right? But one day not investing is one day that you may be losing of giving your money a more opportunity to grow.
Correct. There is never an easy time to invest. When markets have gone up a lot, then everyone feels, oh, the markets have gone up a lot, I'll wait until they come back down. But then when they're coming back down, it's frightening because, well, they're going to go down some more tomorrow and I'll wait. Versus if one adopts a good habit of investing consistently and not being swayed by the market's up, the market's down, but perhaps, each month putting, some savings away, or each quarter putting some savings away, over time, sometimes you'll buy when the market is up, sometimes you'll buy when the market is down, but you will generally benefit from increases and one of the most powerful forces, I think, in the universe, which is compounding.
What is the meaning of compounding?
Sure. I think it was Albert Einstein that is attributed with saying that compounding is probably the most powerful force in the universe. So it's quite significant. And let me give you a more tangible example. Would you rather have $1 million today or 1 penny that compounds, that doubles every day for the next 30 days?
I think the 1 million option sounds way better for me, at least.
It does sound better, but the power of compounding would take a penny and turn it into over $5 million in 30 days if it doubled every day.
Which is incredible now that you say it. And actually does it mainly automatically, right? By having your money invested, like the compounding starts to work in your favor. Is that right?
Correct. Particularly when you have, now again, investments aren't going to double every day, but particularly when you have long periods of time, if you have 20 years, 30 years of the ability to save and invest in the markets, it's going to be a significant amount of money over any extended period of time.
Now that concept is super useful, I think, for every investor who is out there, or any person that would like to become an investor. I think this is something that totally plays in their favor, right?
As a simple example, over my own career. So when I started working in 1990, the S&P 500, the big U.S. index, was at approximately 300.
Okay.
And today it is at approximately 4,200.
Wow.
So think about, again, if I would have put, again, simplifying, $300 to work, I would now have an investment that's worth over 10 times, almost 15 times what it was worth 32 years ago. That's a good example of the power of compounding over a long period of time.
Right. And something else that you mentioned is the benefit of entering into these multi-asset, right, strategies that cover you for these times in which something plays a little bit different that you were used, etc. And that's something that I know you know a lot, right? Can you talk a little bit more about multi-assets, what you're seeing in the future, how this has been helping a lot of investors in order to get a better kind of experience around investing?
Sure. Well, first of all, multi-asset investing by the name is giving an investor exposure to equities, to fixed income, to different geographies, and to different investment styles across those. And the goal is really to have a portfolio where each component of the portfolio is not perfectly correlated with the other parts of the portfolio. A simpler way to say that is when some things are going down, some things are going up.
Right.
Such that over the long run, the portfolio overall is going to be going up. And what we've seen is that, by and large, multi-asset portfolios tend to be more resilient when we go through down periods in the market because of those because of that lack of concentration and the benefits of diversification. That being said, you can always find an investment, that did better. Like I could have chosen that stock with perfect
and
hindsight.
What if it's always, in our minds, right?
Correct. But again, the multi-asset portfolio is going to give you those broad exposures in both up markets as well as greater protection in down markets.
No, and we have to say that there are a lot of products that give you access to these benefits really easily, right? This is not a matter of rich people. This is not a matter of only a few, right? But it's something you can find out there.
This is that democratization trend that we were talking about. One of the, I think, amazing things that has happened certainly over my career is that cost has consistently come down for investors, both large investors as well as small investors. So the advent of exchange-traded funds, which I know are quite popular, are popular because they do several things at once. They give you generally broad diversification to the market. Two, they're generally very competitively priced from a cost standpoint. And three, because they are exchange traded, they provide investors with liquidity as well as transparency in terms of the price. Going back to your other question about advice I would give myself as a much younger person is, don't watch your portfolio every day.
That's a really good one.
If you have the benefit of 10 years, 20 years, 30 years to invest, there is no need to be constantly monitoring and trying to make changes to your portfolio on a real-time basis. That, again, these benefits of diversification and compound growth over time are going to do the work for you. And frankly, watching your portfolio constantly is time that you could be spending doing things that are I think much more fun and interesting.
Totally. I remember a nephew, that invested for the first time, and suddenly he came back to me after a week, right, of putting their money into certain multiple funds. I haven't seen a huge win in my portfolio. So maybe we have to talk about investment horizons, right, in terms of timing, and that's super powerful. Saying again, your money, should be there for X amount of time, and you should be patient with it. This is not going to a casino to gamble. This is something way more conscious, way more secured. It's something that you should be consistent at, right?
Correct. I think again, consistent, disciplined, but also patient. These aren't the type of things though that people generally like to go to, a party and sort of talk about. Everybody likes to. No one ever goes to a party and talks about the bad investments, the individual stocks or bonds that they bought that didn't do very well. You only hear about the ones that did well. And so while this might not be, the kind of headline grabbing or cocktail conversation type of excitement, it is ultimately, in my experience, the prudent and consistent way to allocate your savings and to build wealth over the long run.
Eventually, we're building our future, right? We're kind of building this pillar in order to ground our our longevity and our life after our most successful, not successful, I would not say that, I don't like to say that, but our productive kind part of the life, right?
Correct. We think of in our retirement group at BlackRock as a concept that we refer to as human capital.
Okay.
So generally speaking, over people's lifetimes, you start out earlier in your career, and then you're earning money from the work that you're doing. And generally over people's careers, then they'll start to earn more money as they develop more skills and experience. But that tends to then peak and then start to decline at some point, again, either voluntarily or involuntarily. But if you think about things, that is an extremely valuable asset, and that is something that every individual should be focused on trying to maximize and make the most of. But again, in a way, taking elements of that and trying to move it into the future to create buffers for periods of time when people might not want to work, or the economy goes through periods where there isn't an opportunity to work as well. So it creates a buffer for people as well.
Totally. Super helpful, Ryan. We're about to end, but before concluding the episode, wanted to ask you for one last reflection, like to all the audience that is listening to you, right? What would you tell them in terms of investing? I think this session has been super rich in terms of advice, tips, etc. But anything else that you would like us to listen to, or a reflection you would like us to keep?
Yeah, I would say don't underestimate your ability as an individual to educate yourself. Organizations like BlackRock produce lots of amazing content that you could find on our website as an example. There is a myriad of literature that is available to be consumed. And I'm a strong believer that, again, common sense can go a long way. So I think oftentimes people can be very intimidated by investing. But again, with a little bit of focus, a little bit of curiosity, and a dedication to educating oneself, I think people can gain greater confidence and approach investing with less trepidation.
Super good tip. And thank you very much, Ryan, for being with us today. This has been really good, I think, for me particularly, but I'm sure for the rest of the audience. And hopefully this will be the first of many times that you will come to us in order to talk. Thank you very much, Ryan.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.